when we were discussing how to do this, we thought we would try and replicate many discussions we had sitting around a kitchen table. It's not quite right, and we're missing a coffee, but we'll try and that's the flavour of what we're trying to do this afternoon. Yeah? So Brad and I have been working together on various projects over the last 5 years or so, and this piece of work is part and parcel of another project it's part of a wider project looking at how integrated technology is being picked up across farms. Can we kick off?
Yep. That's good.
Okay. So the starting point for this is a bit of context. The Australian grains industry has got a major competitor coming out at them very hard, and these are some cost comparisons. Can I start with, those are a pretty good set of numbers, Brad. How did you get there? What were the big drivers, just as an overview, to put some context around this?
I guess if you put it this way, our primary goal has been productivity through efficiency. So everything that we do with a return on investment in mind, both first and foremost. The three things that we can't control in our production environment is FX, futures, and weather. And they're three of the main drivers. But the one thing that we can one thing that we can set and chase is our return on investment. That's a number that we can achieve, and it's through our management that we can do that.
Okay, let's come back to that theme several times through this. Just again, for context, you're a 10,000 hectare farmer, crop around 11,000 hectares, you crop around 9.5, 10,000 of that, and you're a grain specialist, and you're right on the border of the low rainfall and the medium rainfall area of Western Australia, yeah?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a bit of important context that'll come up. So that point you were making about your focus is very much return on investment. You're not yields per tonne, you're not tonnes per hectare, you are strictly margin. That's what drives it.
Yeah, that's right. Because of the risks I was just talking about, being like weather being one of them, we can't control yield, and it's if we use yield as our benchmark, it's very easy if we don't achieve that benchmark just to blame it on something else and walk away from it. But a return on investment is something that we control, so we can actually drill into our business and find out where our efficiency gains can be made, so we can hit that target. As opposed to if we're chasing yield, we put capital at risk, then we have an adverse end to the season, or we might have like a poor season all the way through, and it's easy to blame. Whereas with a return on investment target, we've only got ourselves to blame.
That's really interesting, because you're coming back again to risk all the time, and you're on this border between the low and medium rainfall area. Just before we move on, how important is it, the articulation of that goal to your management structure? I mean, I'm really aware you've got 5 permanent employees, co-specialised. Every time you walk on the farm, it's got a hum about it. It works really well. Is this a big part of the battle plan?
Yeah, it is, because our staff, we need a very transparent platform that our staff can see what we're trying to achieve, and then they can engage and specialise in their own little point along that value chain as such. So by just giving them an order or telling them what to do, we don't get any engagement at all. So when we empower them with decisions to make their particular task better, that's where we get our efficiency gains from.
And they've got skin in the game, soft and hard skin in the game.
Yeah, so we incentivise them accordingly.
Right, okay. Can we just quickly, let's go into those points in some depth. Just have a look at these 3 slides, because we'll come back to them. This is your 100 years rainfall.
Yes.
This is, again, where Tammin is, right on the edge of the medium and the low rainfall area. And this is some of the shifts that are happening in the climate in that area. So increasing heat during crop flowering and frost.
Yeah, well, the heat will actually cause just as big an impact on our production system as what a frost will. And as the climate changes, we're encountering, as you can see from this data here, we're encountering more cold and warm events, which is impacting on our production system.
And back to this bit, that's the variability, but that only tells a little bit of the story, doesn't it?
It does. The hardest part about trying to manage a system like that is we don't know what the next year is going to bring or the next day is going to bring. So that's by having that process that's sitting in front of us, we can look forward as well as looking backwards at the same time. And that's what all of our data sets that we use, that's what enables us to do, look backwards and forwards at the same time. So with the rainfall, it shows the volatility of that. Like how do you manage a production system around a sawtooth like that?
And that whilst you've got that massive range there, it's not showing how that distribution is changing over time. You're getting longer, more extended autumn droughts there.
And that's one of the biggest impacts for us now is our autumn droughts. Like we've learnt the ability how to dry seed and have ourselves in the game as such, but trying to get the date when it breaks and when our season will basically tie off at the back of it. That's the range that we're trying to work within now, and we don't know when that's going to happen. So as we go forward, we're putting more investment into moisture probes and weather data so we can localise it, so we can capture those opportunities, so we can take the predatory approach to opportunities when they arise.
Often you hear, often there is a description given around because of flat yield curves. People, it doesn't matter if farmers put a little bit extra nitrogen or something on, because those yield curves aren't going to respond very much if you put a little bit too much on. But you take it the other way around to be able to try and insure against those dips. Is that correct? How does that work through?
What it means is we may leave a little bit of yield on the table by not chasing or putting more nitrogen or any product for that matter up front, but it's actually protecting the downside. So by analysing all of our yield and rainfall data for this long, not that we've got yield data going back that far, but what it says is if you take care of the downside, the upside will take care of itself.
So it's akin to buying insurance. Back out my car.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make a decision 2 seconds before having an accident to buy some insurance. I'm going to take it up front.
That's correct, yes.
So science and economics, that's what drives us. It's numbers. It's all about data.
Yeah. If we look at all the decisions behind our investments, it's all about the two weakest points that we have and it's like agriculture Australia-wide. The two weakest links are labour and capital. So we need to invest to optimise both those points. So to make so any investment that we make, we first of all look at how that will optimise our labour component, which is a large part of our business, so it's the most important part of our business. And we also look at how our investment in the technology will also enhance that or optimise that, and then how that will go into our cash flows as we see in this flow chart here.
Okay, this is a really busy little flow chart. This is, if anybody's at blame, it's for me. I'm the culprit here. But right down that bottom hand where I've got dollars 0.7, 1.3, that 0.7 is 0.7 tonnes per hectare is break-even variables, and that 1.3 is break-even for capital cost.
Yeah, plus cost of capital.
Plus cost of capital, and we're weighting that at 20% discount rate. So those are seriously good numbers. But that's been a process to get to that. Yeah? This process of securing your cash flow, investing in your next piece of innovation. Can you give us a sense of how that moves over time?
Okay, so if we look at it from like a history of, like, you know, it's recent history, my wife and I, when we first moved there, like we went through quite an expansion phase, so it was quite a capital widening phase for the mid-2000s, and we got to a point where it wasn't worth growing for growth's sake, because growing for growth's sake can actually destroy value because your processes break down, your timing is not optimum like it can be in a smaller operation. So then we started to look at that capital deepening process where we started to invest back into the business, things like technology, a storage system to so we've got more of a consistent supply of inventory to the end user market. And then some of our operational change, like a switch to liquids and investing in our own transport. So then if you look at sorry mate. You want to go back to that slide?
Yeah,
I was actually
talking to it out.
Yeah, so here's a bit of a timeline of what we did. So in 2008, we did EM and radiometric surveying on the farm. So we broke it down into management zones. So even though we had the scale, we can still micromanage, so on a macro level. And that was purely economically driven because some certain soil types were just not delivering a profitable outcome, and we could actually define that from yield data, but it was a case of going in to find out the how and the why, not the what, because we knew what the what was. So that was quite an investment that we made into our soil testing, and then little things like incremental changes like the weed seeker for obviously minimising chemical use. I switched to liquid fertilisers, which we did in 2012, which drove our costs down further. So our net return was over 11% better from a liquid system as opposed to a granular system, plus our efficiency gains were around 17%. And then we continued to drive further. So we looked at canola simulation. So when hybrids first came onto the scene in WA, obviously the cost and risk involved with that. Saw it on the cotton over on the East Coast, how simulation was working and better outcomes. So we started to invest down that road as well. Our silo complex was basically to gain more efficiency, to capture some of the sort of inefficiencies in the supply chain, and we were exploiting that, and so that was giving us a better net farm gate return. So we've grown from there as well, and then when we started to build backwards from that, from the end user market, so we had to build our own transport system. Well, we didn't have to, but we were effectively making a margin all the way through. So we have a cost of production plus margin, we have our transport system plus margin, and then we've got our storage and handling plus margin. So it was a margin on a margin on a margin.
And each one of these investments have not only driven your cost curve, but have also altered your risk profile. Yeah? You managed to squeeze more risk out of your operations.
Yeah, that is because we're lowering our cost of production. So when we have a benchmark of, say, 1.3 tonne as our break-even number, which includes a cost of capital and a return on that, it's a very achievable number. So if we wind it back to all of our weather data, don't worry about winding it back, but if we go back to our weather data and we look at our probability of achieving a 1.3 on that 100 years is plus 80%. But if we look at a yield target of, say, 2.5 tonne, our probability of achieving that it's like less than 20%. I think it's 13 or 14%. So it's about having like an algorithm in that you can feed all that into and give you your like level of risk as such to be able to work with. And as I said a little while ago, it's about protecting the downside because the upside will take care of itself.
And your yield this year was
the
wheat?
It was a good average, like it was a bit above average. It was about 10% above average, but we only had a decile 4 rainfall year, but we had a decile 9 pricing year, so that's what made it one to remember.
I don't know anybody else on 10,000 hectares that does 570 soil testing sites. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, so if we look at the main driver behind this was because we've been lowering our fertiliser use down and driving all the costs down with it. The risk was that we were going to fall off the edge of the cliff. We were just going to mine the country, fall off the edge of the cliff and end up with a barren wasteland. So we had to keep a very close eye on it. So we decided, or we derived all those soil sites from the EM and Gamma, and not the whole farm at this stage because we grew during the same time. So we had to correlate and make some assumptions on the way through from that base. So we break them down into latitude, and every 3 years, every single one of those sites has a comprehensive soil test. So it's just to make sure that we're not mining the country for a start, and to see if like our soil amelioration, what we're doing there, like making sure our ratios, like our potassium sodium ratios, our carbon nitrogen ratios, things like that are reasonably in check, so we don't take ourselves too far on the spectrum in any which way. And having such a thorough data set now, we've got like spatial maps for everything. So we can put up a pH map, we can put up a potassium map, a phosphorus map, a nitrogen map, whatever we want, we've got spatial mapping for.
So the science then allows you to balance the risk of pushing your system too hard and crashing it versus the risk of putting too much in and running into weather event at the risk.
Yeah, yeah.
So your data integration, could you talk a bit about the way in which you come at this from 3 cuts?
Yeah, so when we go on to the next slide, it'll probably feed into the next slide, but we have NDVI images every 7 days, and if we don't get a clear image because of cloud cover or something like that, there's an algorithm that predicts growth in that period. So when the next image is clear, it recalibrates itself. So we've got from below. So we've got that's our terrestrial mapping system. We did do some drone work. Drone's a bit limited, but where a satellite is good because of the scale that it can get over quickly. Below, we've obviously got our soil tests and maps, and where our moisture probes. So we can make moisture maps now. We're making spatial rainfall maps. We'll see that in a couple of slides to go, and that allows us to pretty much direct where we want to go and monitor our crop. So we can say, okay, the rainfall, this event, month or year to date, where it's been, so we can then actually go into that part of the paddock, test it to see what it needs, build a prescription, and either drive it or fly it on. And
then that, as you said, is integrates into your workflows. Would you walk us through this, please?
Yeah, so this is our on-farm workflow. So if we go to, it'll be your left, where we are at the moment, where we're putting our precise prescriptions in place. We're bringing all of our spatial data in, so we're looking at our P maps, K maps, pH maps, and then it's all being fed into the plan. We feed our financial data into that, so that's like for our budgeting system. We cost it out, we put our cost of all inputs into it, and then we have a cut-off date of March 15, that all of our prescriptions have to be made, uploaded into the machinery, checked, double-checked, and ready to go. Execute is obviously the seeding process. And then throughout the year we'll be monitoring NDVI, spatial rainfall maps, moisture probes, plant testing, and that will just enable us to be reasonably agile in our inputs. So even though it's from a macro scale that we're observing, because of the data set, so we can actually manage it on a micro level as well. And then obviously we've got harvest, we process our yield data, we look at anomalies, whether it be high or low, and see the why, because there's plenty of reasons that it could be the why. So that's also put up into a spatial map, and then that flows through into what our rotation will be. Like we work on a three-year rotation where we're 2 in, 1 out. So we do a little bit of market adjustment through there, but not wholesale. We don't chase rainbows. We stick to our plan pretty much, and so that's part of our cropping strategy. Then we go forward into our soil samples, so we bring all our soil samples in. Again, if we have an anomaly in our system, we'll go and get the soil test, every soil test done in that paddock to figure out the why, both high and low, and then we feed it back into our data set, and then back into the prescriptions, and away we go again. So having that farm workflow, everyone knows where they fit into the system. Third-party contractors, as far as agronomists and soil scientists are concerned as well, and it just gives a clear outline for everyone on what their role is. And we find that some of our staff, they just engage in a certain point of that because it's actually an interest of theirs, and then they start to specialise to a point, and that's when we give them freedom to grow into that role.
Gary, so March 15 in is the point where all the variables you can control, you've locked down entirely, ready for the variables that you can't.
Yes.
And then this thing builds over time like a self-learning algorithm. As you get more and more data, and you're able to continue to refine it 1 year to the next.
Yeah. So it's a rough form of AI, I guess.
It's Watson in evolution, mate.
Yeah. Well, I'd have a Watson I'd be a Watson if I could, but there's opportunity out there if anyone heard that.
Yeah, it's coming. So the next step, the thing specifically that we were working on last was your move now into putting Wi-Fi blanket over the farm. There's a number of reasons for it. We specifically wanted to look at the boom. Can you talk to that? What's so important? How does this operational data help your efficiencies as far as that goes?
I guess if we look at the boom being a critical factor of our seeding operations, the risk there is single point failure. So if we haven't got an efficient boom, or if we have a boom breakdown, then the whole system will come down with it. If you go forward to the next slide, we can look from a cost base. So if we look at a ratio like total efficiency of 75 hectares an hour, our cost will be $6 a hectare. But when we put an efficiency ratio of 0.87, it's another 50 cents per hectare. But to drive our costs down, we have to get ourselves as efficient as possible. So it's about having a clear view through Wi-Fi, so every machine can see where it is, so we can optimise the travel time and all the logistics around that. So we can take our efficiency ratio from a 0.87 to a 0.97, which, as you can see, it takes almost 40 cents off the production cost. And that's when scale, you overlay that with scale, and that's when you can see some significant savings, which like on a with an NPV and with a 20% discount rate, it equates to a 1 year payback on our investment in our on-farm Wi-Fi system.
Yeah, because you're doing 52,000 hectares. I mean, you're moving back and forth over that farm so many times for ways of operations.
Yeah, that's correct.
Pretty quick payoff.
Yeah, it is.
So that was the primary thing that we looked at as far as this is concerned, but that Wi-Fi though, although that was where we decided to look at for what rate of return could justify that investment, you've got all these other things that you want to do with it. Would you talk to that, please?
Okay, so we're now, this year we're creating spatial rainfall maps, so we can micromanage, flick forward. So this one here is a single rainfall. So say on the, whatever date it is that has got there, we have a rainfall event, and then we can see across the whole farm where it's fallen. Generally, what we're finding now is rainfall follows trends. So this is a year today. This is 2018, and then if we forward to the next one, that's a month today. So what that does is it better directs where we go and have a look at our system. Like we can say, okay, down in the southwest of the farm there, it's been a high rainfall all year. We can start to look at, does the plant need something? Does it need a top up of nitrogen? We look at our moisture probes to see if it's going to warrant or not. So I guess it comes down to push or pull management then. Do we push it? Do we pull back? Do we try and pull some of our other areas up to match our better areas? So there's still a lot of assumptions that will be made, but it just gives us a better direction where to go and look. So we can overlay on that particular year-to-date map, for instance, we can overlay our NDVI imagery, and then we can another layer will be our soil. And then from there we can better direct all of our inputs to go, which is, it's all about driving our costs down and therefore risk.
And this system has the investment by the state government into the Doppler system. As this augments, this further going, that's a level of granularity that wasn't there before. Now you're taking finer granularity again. It amplifies those signals you're getting from that.
Yeah, like the investment in the Doppler radar was good, but now we're focusing it a lot more within our boundaries. So it comes back to what our business model was before. Like we've moved from a capital widening to a capital deepening where we can focus it more.
So there was a really good piece of work done a few years ago by a group of economists from my department, which I'll state up front, I wasn't part of. It was a great study, so therefore I'm at liberty to be able to say it was. And there were two factors that, after a wheat belt-wide survey, identified two prime productivity drivers of total factor productivity, which is this capital deepening. One was the use of embodied technology that comes with new technology, the new machines, whatever, so that automatically has advantage to those who are bringing on new machinery. But the other is the ability to make good decision making. And part and parcel of that is being able to lessen the management complexity around integrated systems, picking up on things like precision agriculture. The implications of this are that the most effective form of extension is an extension that is in the form of helping people solve problems in situ at time, in real time. And so we have this lack of connectivity around three big things coming into the farm, around the farm.
Hello, attendees. We are 5 minutes off kicking off plenary session, so please wrap up your lunch and make your way through to plenary session, which is commencing in 5 minutes.
We have an age of farmers, but could you speak to that, mate? Could you, and your observations of what's happening out there? How well do you see these types of tools being picked up? Because this is, there's 16% estimated benefit in productivity, and we've got to respond to this external pressure.
The adoption rate is not high. There's numerous reasons for that. One is farm consolidation, like farms getting bigger. If we just take the WA in context, like 15 years ago there were 10,000 farms, now there's less than 4,000 producing grain farmers. So the majority of that has been absorbed by other farms. So their management time and labour time is stretched. You've got the demographics changing as far as a new age of farmer coming through. They're young, they're smart, they understand tech, but the parents are moving into more of a governance role. And they still control the checkbook, and they don't see the value that the data-driven management decisions can provide. And until that generation has moved and the younger generation coming through now pretty much take over the reins and the checkbook, I think we'll be sitting at a level for some time. And there's so much coming at us that it's so complex in your mind. It's actually quite simple when you've been doing it for a while, but when it first comes at you, it's so complex, like people just go back to default.
So how do we get people to that level where they can intelligently drill this and extract the value for themselves?
Yes.
So we've got these sets of positive responses, which I'm not going to have time to talk to, but again, I guess the two big takeaways in this are the complexity. I mean, again, you've got management depth and you've got financial resources to be able to handle this. There's lots of people out there who haven't, and a level of connectivity. You've invested in that around your farm and back into some of the backhaul, but that in itself in time is already a limiting factor as well. People pick up on.
Yep, absolutely.
Please join me in thanking our speakers, Brad Plunkett and Brad Jones.